pat on the back for all of the mothers out there working hard to be your best self and a great mom too. My next guest has focused in on 5 things successful moms teach their daughters. These are important lessons you might not even realize your girls are soaking in. Corporate recruiter Carly Hazen joins me. I know moms are watching, eager, all ears, wanting to know what they're doing and how that's affecting your daughter. As you look at it, there are those hidden lessons that they're picking up on a day-to-day basis.
So many. And when we talk about what successful moms teach their daughters, I think it's important that we remember that there are many broad definitions of success.
True.
Right?
True.
I talked to my friend Amy last night, who's raising 4 very bright, capable daughters, and she said, we define success as being energized about where you are in your life and your contribution to the world. So that's incredibly broad. There's a lot of ways to feel successful as a mother and to pass on those lessons of how to be successful as an adolescent and as a child, and being a good friend is successful.
Exactly.
It's not always the best at academics or the best, person at sports, but I do think that, we've talked about in our tips here, there are, ways to balance that with also setting very high and achievable expectations.
Absolutely,
for your
you can
kids.
have both. But
you can have both.
Personal values.
The way that you pass off that lesson.
Right,
exactly.
right. And we have to say as well, I mean, as you explore this, I think the one thing that struck me as a mother to a daughter is that the idea of shaping these young women is huge and overwhelming, but it's the day-to-day actions that really add up and make the difference.
Absolutely, and I think that that's why it's important to have a network of mothers that you can talk to, because you don't know what's going to be a struggle for you in facing some of these really tricky waters with your kids until others have been through it and can pass off some of that advice. So that's what I did to help prep for this, is talk to my personal and professional network and got some great advice.
You do have some great advice here you're passing to us. We're grateful. Topping the list, social skills, that's social confidence.
Absolutely. I read a couple of studies. One was from Penn State and one was from Duke University that tracked more than 700 kids across the U.S. between kindergarten and age 25 and found a significant correlation between their social skills as kindergartners and those that actually made it through college and were employed full-time by the age of 25. So that just goes to show that starting very fundamentally in how to teach your children and daughters especially to be socially competent, how to make a friend, how to solve problems on their own without always needing to go to a parent. I'll tell my kids when they're fighting, either you both get a timeout or you can both come up with a solution and bring it to me and avoid the timeout. If you solve these problems on your own, it helps with codependency problems as kids get older. But learning how to pull in a kid that is being left out, learn how to stick up for themselves if they think they got a problem right and the teacher said they didn't. It's all of those competency issues that I do see a big kind of trickle effect into adulthood in corporate recruiting.
Absolutely.
9 times out of 10 we're getting a position to fill for a company because there hasn't been a good cultural fit or there's communication issues within a department. It's not necessarily competency or someone didn't know how to do the job. It was how they interacted with the coworkers.
And from a parenting perspective, don't you think the bar has been raised with technology? It's entered this whole new dynamic of social skills.
And what's socially appropriate.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then you get into the whole, how many likes they're getting on Instagram and how that deals with your self-worth.
Absolutely.
So I think it's setting a very, very important bedrock about your self-worth and how you feel about yourself and how your parents feel about you from a very early age so that they don't get so swayed later on in life.
We know kids watch our behavior, but you say our mindset can actually teach them a lot too. How so? So
I read about 2 different mindsets and they were very interesting. One is a fixed mindset, which kind of assumes that your character and your intelligence is kind of the way you are, right?
Okay.
So you're born with a certain amount of intelligence. And parents, I think, will sometimes say when a kid gets a great, score on a test, oh, that's because you're so smart. Of course you got a great grade. Of course you're going to be in AP English. You just set these kind of fixed expectations based on your innate character. And that way, if you succeed at something, it's a manifestation of that inherent intelligence. As opposed to a growth mindset, on the other hand, which thrives on challenge and sees failure as not evidence of being unintelligent, but as a springboard for growth, right? So at the very core is the distinction in saying if you are told that you ace that test because you're so smart, as opposed to you ace that test because of your effort. There's a big lesson there, right? So you lost the basketball game, the score was 20-40. Let's talk a little bit about what your contribution was to score the 20 points that you did. Did you have any extra baskets in there? Did you have more assists than you did last game?
Praising the effort.
Praising the effort and talking about your personal growth along the way. Failure can't be something that you try so desperately to avoid that you're not focused on what you're doing in the work. I mean, we always say it's the work.
Parents to swallow on behalf of their kids.
Especially if you're a goal-oriented, high-achieving parent or mother, right? It's very hard.
So you hit on a buzzword there, expectations.
Yes.
Where as parents, as mothers in particular, can we maybe improve when it comes to those expectations?
Well, the expectations parents have on their kids have a huge effect on attainment, and it causes a ripple effect for the expectations that kids hold on themselves. Parents who manage their children with an expectations, let's say to go to college, studies have shown that 90% of all kids who have that expectation, regardless of socioeconomic status or income, if you manage a child toward a certain goal, they see it come to fruition, and then they start kind of envisioning that it's just an expectation that you have. And it can start in very simple ways. There's a banner all over my kids' school that says, courtesy isn't optional. It's an expectation,
Love it.
right? So there's different ways to set those expectations that just are. These are things that are, these are things that will be, and then you just manage towards that. You talk about it openly, and you know, when you get into college, these are some things you're going to need to prepare for, is setting those expectations for whatever that is important to you and your kids. If they have a dream to play professional sports, there's expectations along the way that you will need to meet, and you manage that appropriately.
A mom who demonstrates financial know-how made your list, encouraging their daughters to get involved and engaged financially. I want to end on this final point, though. You believe moms can play a big role in helping daughters discover their own passions.
Yes.
How so?
I think it's important to embrace what makes our kids different. Self-esteem, I read, can drop 3.5% more than boys in between adolescence and high school. 3.5% more than boys. I think that just shows that our daughters are a lot more susceptible to being hurt and to being influenced by their peers, even more so than boys. So I think that that just makes us be particularly aware to give our kids a lot of options, and as soon as they find something that they're excited about, be it academically, socially, sports, whatever it is, to really encourage that and encourage the differences. Because when you're young, you don't want to be different. There's nothing worse than standing out. But as you get older and becoming more of an adolescent, that's when kids really start to separate their identity different than their parents. My daughter's fourth grade teacher said that a lot of times in third and fourth grades, kids start experimenting with different personalities, trying to be the class clown, trying to be the renegade, trying out being a tomboy. My daughter at dinner the other night was like, I'm going to try out a new laugh. And I was like, let's maybe do that for a week.
Let's stick with what you got.
I'm happy with your laugh.
Going good.
You do try on these different kind of alter egos in adolescence, and it's important to be embracing of that because they're trying on different ways to be an individual. And I think that that should be encouraged. And it can be really difficult. This sounds really simple, but I have a girlfriend who grew up being a professional soccer player, and she has a daughter who has no interest in soccer. So sometimes we get to be the mentor for our kids, and sometimes we get to be the bridge that connects them to the mentor and a bridge that connects them to an expert. She got her into swimming and introduced her to that sport, which she had no knowledge of, and her daughter just took off like a fish. So sometimes you get to be the end-all be-all, and sometimes you get to be someone who helps connect and be a conduit to where your kid needs to go.
So well said, Carly. It's a powerful conversation coming from a powerful woman, and I say that sincerely. You kind of represent, I think, a great balance. So thanks for
you too.
directing
Mom
our brain this way. We appreciate it.